What's up, everyone? Welcome back. In this episode, we're doing the Miami Dolphins season review. And instead of doing seasons grades, I'm actually going to switch over and talk about my power rankings, which is going to essentially be how I think these teams will stack up by the end of next season. Um, so for the teams I've already done, I'm going to post in the comments where I have those teams in my power rankings. And going forward, I'm just going to do the power ranking in the video. And so now we're going to take a look at the Dolphins roster, a team that my power ranking is 22nd, which is a little low for a team that made the playoffs. It's a team I think overachieved a little, but still has some bright spots looking forward. So let's go through the roster here. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill goes down a good bit. He did have a good end to the year before he got injured, unfortunately. Next year is going to be a very telling year for Tannehill. He'll be 29, and that's kind of the age where you kind of make a decision on if this guy's your franchise quarterback or not. But I expect he actually will take a step forward. But that said, a lot of people have been saying that for pretty much the last 2 or 3 years going into that respective season. So we'll see. He's a guy that has kind of disappointed, especially in recent memory. Matt Moore at a 70, one of the better backups in the game. And then other running backs, Jay Ajayi. I'm kind of a fan of his. He's got a lot of explosiveness, but I'd like to see more vision. He is very downhill, and I think he will continue to develop. And then Damian Williams is another guy I really like. A lot of shiftiness. His third year out of Oklahoma. So going to be a really good receiving back for the Dolphins next year. Definitely see a lot of him on third down. And then on to the receivers. Jarvis Landry, very solid. Something that doesn't get talked about with Jarvis is his power. He really does run people over and stiff arm people, which is a great compliment to his shiftiness and elusiveness. So a big fan of Jarvis Landry. That said, I don't think he is a number one receiver, but definitely that top-notch wide receiver 2 right there with like a Golden Tate. And then Devontae Parker, he goes down a little bit, but that said, he has a ton of upside. I think he's actually a candidate to break out next year. So I'm looking forward to watching Devontae Parker next year. Kenny Stills goes way down. He's like an 80 overall. I think that's way too high for him. I think he's a solid 3, good deep threat, but that's about it. Onto the tight ends. Jordan Cameron continues to be one of those incredibly overrated players. He's like an 81 overall in EA, and Jordan Cameron has been benched and tossed around the league. And we really saw him struggle in Miami, so he goes down. And I've talked about lowering him in other roster videos as well. Deion Sims is fine, and Marquise Gray, probably a position of need in the offseason. Onto the O-line, these guys pretty much, for the most part, all went up. Brandon Albert was like a 73. I think he's still pretty solid. A well-paid veteran there at the left tackle. Laramie Tunsil was a beast. He goes way up from, I think, a 76. And then Mike Pouncey, I moved him up a little bit, but his injury goes down. There's a lot of concern about his longevity. We'll see if he can bounce back and stay healthy. I think it was his hip that they're really worried about. Bushrod goes up a tiny bit, and Juwan James down just a tiny bit. So the offensive line is a reason to be optimistic for this team. I think that's the main reason they were able to rattle off a bunch of wins. That, along with this D-line that we'll take a look at. Cameron Wake goes up. Love Cameron Wake. One of the most skilled pass rushers in the game with some power as well. Andre Branch and Mario Williams. Branch definitely the starter. Mario Williams kind of a complete waste of money for this Miami team. Very little production out of him. D-tackle and Ndamukong Suh goes up a little bit. Jordan Phillips goes up. Both really solid D-tackles. Definitely kind of the foundation of their defense right there. Kolomisi goes down. Never been a huge fan of his. I think he's just an average starting linebacker. Kiko stays the same. Same with Jenkins. The corners I had to move around quite a bit. Byron Maxwell goes down just a little bit. He did have a good year, but I think EA overreacted a little bit. I think he was like an 83. I moved him down to a 78. Xavier Howard is the number 2 corner on this team, so he passes up these two guys who went down a little bit. Tony Lippett is an interesting player as well, but he was really moved around the depth chart a lot throughout the year. So he's continued to develop. I'm pretty sure he's a converted receiver out of Michigan State. Onto the safeties, these guys are studs. Abdul Quddus caught my eye early in the year. A great coverage safety, but also kind of a thumper as well. And then Rashad Jones, of course, absolute freak. Got injured, unfortunately, but so this defense, I think, could use some linebackers, but it's really going to be one of the better defenses next year. And then the offense is really just going to come down to Tannehill. So 22nd in the power rankings for me. We'll see. They're going to have to both continue their success that was really unexpected at the end of the year and develop, because pretty much every team in the NFL, as I went through the power rankings, has a lot of reasons to be optimistic next year. And the Dolphins seem to have already hit that optimism, so they're going to have to build upon that going forward. So that's going to conclude the Dolphins. Next up, we're going to have the Eagles. Thanks for watching these reviews and being patient, as it is kind of a timely process. So let me know what you think of my ratings, and subscribe if you like the videos, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.